Item E, revenue reports. Well,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This morning we have two reports to present. I'll start with E1. We'll take them as they were produced chronologically. E1 is our annual report reflecting results from fiscal year 2007. For those of you that don't remember this document or have never seen it, it's a wealth of information, so I'll go through it briefly and show you how it's constructed. On the front page, the top third of that page, you can see the gross collections of general revenue for the last 10 years. At the bottom of the first column, it reflected there $5.474 billion in gross collections of general revenue for fiscal year 07, which was over and above the $5.18 billion the year before. The difference in dollars in the second column would be $294 million, and in the third column, the percent increase was 5.68. You can quickly review those percentages over the last 10 years and see that 5.68 is not quite as robust as it has been in the previous 3 years, but much better than those of us that were here in 01 and 02 and 03. The bottom two-thirds of that page reflect the income tax collections in the first column for the past 30 years. $2.95 billion in this year and 2.75 the previous year, for a growth rate of 7.2%. That is all five components aggregated together, all five components of the individual income taxes and the corporate income taxes put together. In the column in the middle, the general revenue portion, the sales and use taxes, total $2.2 billion this year, and the sales and use tax collections of 1 cent would equal $493 million per penny levied on the taxpayers. Now that number will go down next year due to tax relief actions that the General Assembly recently passed. In other words, the food tax and the energy taxes. The growth rate last year on sales and use, as you can see, was 4.5%. The income tax collections and the sales and use tax collections combined together will be about 94% of all the general revenue collections. So if you can nail down those four components in the forecast, you're 94% of the way home. Turning to pages 2, 3, and 4, there you'll see every dollar of collections from all sources for both general and special revenue. At the bottom of page 4, the totals reflect $5.474 billion for general revenue and about $1.7 billion for special. Those again are the gross collections. And on page 5, which looks somewhat similar to the front page of your monthly revenue reports, you can see after all the deducts and the leakages and the transfers that the bottom line on general revenue was $4.468 billion for fiscal year 2007 and $1.65 billion in special revenue for the same year. Pages 6 through 9 reflect the distribution of all general and special revenues. Each line item would reflect all beneficiaries of those funds. You can see the way this is laid out, at least for the general revenue portion, it looks somewhat like the format for Revenue Stabilization Act. The totals will be reflected on page 9. Under the general revenue column on page 9, you can see the last entry, General Revenue Allotment Reserve Fund of $409.27 million in order to get the balance up to 4.467 billion, which amazingly is the same number that was on the bottom of page 5. Pages 10 through 12 compare the general revenue distribution of 07 to the same distributions of 06. Knowing that the average distribution growth rate was 5.68%, you can look at that final right-hand column and quickly see who had gains and who had losses compared to the average. So this is a pretty nifty document. When you come back to budget hearings next fall, you can see who the winners and losers were the previous year really quick by looking at that column. And then finally, page 13 shows the Educational Excellence Trust Fund and compares the 07 distribution to the 06 distribution. Every line item received the same growth rate of 7.29%. Mr. Chairman, if you'd like, we can take questions on this document before moving to the next one, or we can move right on.
Are there questions from Mr. Wilson?